Hello and welcome, or rather welcome back to the fundraising appeal of the Joint Investigation Team. Those people who have been watching us live just a moment ago, what happened is that I got disconnected because as we're recording this now, this is entirely live, and at the same time there's a big thunderstorm with lightning here in Zurich, and I think there was a power surge and my computer went instantaneously off. So as soon as I got disconnected, I was thrown from the Google Hangouts and I couldn't find my way back in, as silly as that sounds, because neither via YouTube nor via Google Hangouts could I actually find the link that led me back to the Hangouts that I set up, and Melanie couldn't get me back because I was the administrator of this event. So these technical difficulties aside, we're now back again, and we're just going to restart from the beginning. Because I think a couple of people just joined us fresh. And so what this is, we decided to launch this fundraising appeal to support our human rights work, our work supporting the victims of directed energy weapons, of biotechnology, military biotechnology that's been currently used against the civilian population. This work is extremely urgent now. We are now recording live. It's the beginning of June 2017. And it is extremely urgent that we start acting against this now, because we've been talking to victims, Melanie, for a very long time, and I myself have been in contact with people all around the world the last couple of months intensively. And what we feel is happening is an acceleration of these programs. These are illegal, partially human trafficking, partially weapons testing programs on the civilian population, and the number of victims is going up exponentially. And even though you might think this is a very highly specialized sort of crime, not everybody's being attacked with directed energy weapons. These are, for example, microwave weapons, microwave guns, or with implants, illegal implants, and nanotechnology and neurotechnology. Even though you might not think you can become the victim of this, a lot of people already are without noticing. And that's because it was, I think it was in the year 2013 or 2012, I have to check, where the ex-chief medical officer of Finland, Dr. Ronnie Kilde, revealed that the swine flu vaccines were loaded with tracking chips. So whoever obtained or got the swine flu vaccine has now got a chip in them, an illegal chip. So instead of the serial number being tattooed in the arm of the victims of the concentration camps, we now have a situation whereby the serial number, and actually much more, is put into your body so that you cannot get rid of it once it's inside of you. And so you can imagine that this sort of crime is now being, well, it looks very much like it's being expanded from the swine flu vaccine. It was a very specialized vaccine. And it's very likely going to be expanded into standard vaccines, and maybe it already is. We're still investigating into the standard vaccines that are given to children. And what this is leading us towards is a highly enslaved society, whereby the military intelligence complex decides, they track everybody and they decide who is allowed to rise. Implants and also the electromagnetic technology that's being used on the civilians can also impair brain functions. It can cause artificial illnesses. And we are steering towards a society where the intelligence agencies decide who's allowed to use their natural brain capabilities to the full and who is going to be artificially impaired to get rid of competitors. That, unfortunately, is already a reality. So what we're doing now is we are working very intensely to help the victims. And I just would like to explain why we founded the Joint Investigation Team. And that's because even though these crimes have been going on for absolutely decades, and even though they have massively intensified, as it seems, after 9/11, as part of the war on terror, or war of terror, however you would like to call it, even though that's the case, the police still refuse to investigate these crimes. They seem to be captured, they seem to be corrupted. And when people report these brutal attacks with directed energy weapons, or when they report feeling implants or having the impression that they have illegal implants, The police doesn't just ignore the reports. Sometimes the police actively tries to smear the victims with mental health allegations, fraudulent mental health allegations, I should say, and they try to harm them by various means, including sectioning. And this is a horrible state of affairs, but sadly it is almost normal when you're dealing with captured systems. So the situation we have now is that we had to found our own criminal investigation team. So we founded the joint investigation team, Melanie.vritschan and myself, together with 3 colleagues in the US. And I just would like to briefly introduce the people who are on the joint investigation team. So Melanie.vritschan, she has got years and years experience being the victim and also being a researcher of this technology as a result of being a victim of what it is like to have implants and be attacked with directed energy weapons. She has founded the human rights organization ICATOR, which she's running, and she is preparing court cases and is working to actually have these crimes against victims stopped in Europe at a very high level. So our colleagues in the US include Karen Melton-Stewart. She is a retired NSA intelligence analyst. She has 28 years experience working for the National Security Agency in the United States, which is the domestic intelligence agency, also foreign, I should say. It's the digital intelligence agency in the US. Then our other colleague is Ramola D. She's an investigative journalist and a writer. And she is extraordinary because she has specialized in Secret Service crimes and in crimes committed with directed energy weapons and this sort of advanced military technology. And she is, as far as I can tell, one of the very, very few investigative journalists to even touch this subject. And this is a subject that not even The Intercept will go anywhere near to. They mention a bit, but they don't actually investigate in detail, and none of the mainstream media touch this topic. So Ramola D is really our top investigative journalist. Her work can be seen at everydayconcern.net. And then our the fifth member of the group, in addition to myself, is Dr. Millicent Black, and she has researched this technology for over a decade, I think. She has been a victim of this for at least 14 years, and she has been brutally mutilated. Her joints have been crippled with this technology by the American intelligence agencies, and she's fighting for her life. But she is an expert in this technology, and she's also an expert in violence against women. Myself, I'm a high energy physicist originally. After I worked at CERN, I worked at the high energy lab called DAISY in Hamburg as well, and I was a research fellow at St. John's College, Oxford. After that, I specialized in complex human systems. So our team is now conducting this criminal investigation, and we have to do essentially the work of the police forces that they refuse to do and have refused to do for absolutely years. So this funding appeal today is to support our work and to really enable us to help the victims. And I would like, before we actually launch into showing you some bombshell revelations and showing you how this is actually real, and that will explain why I have my study looks like a moon lander. Before I explain that, I would like to emphasize the urgency of this appeal and the urgency of our work, because even though these crimes have been going on for decades, and especially intelligence agents have been chipped and implanted and tested on for years and years. I think the very first implants that the investigative journalist Ramola D uncovered were in the 1950s. And I think those were chips that allowed people to be tracked, I think, globally. So this is really ancient technology, but now it's becoming ever more sophisticated, enabling the perpetrators to control human body functions and human brain functions and neurology to a very, very shockingly detailed degree. And of course, that amount of power will be used abundantly, and therefore these crimes are accelerating, they are expanding. The number of victims, well, we think they number in the millions around the world, but there are also a lot of clandestine victims. So, you know, people who got a vaccine and maybe there was a chip in that, they might not notice that they're being chipped, but actually they are. So this is why we're launching this funding campaign. We're trying to put a stop to these crimes this year in 2017, and we would like to launch a couple of class actions and court cases, and we would like to continue our investigative work. All of us members of the joint investigation team are personally attacked as well, brutally. That's why I have to be able to even do this broadcast. I had to insulate my study all around with metal foils just to keep the electromagnetic shots out whilst I'm recording this. And Melanie can also tell the attacks on her. But we really, really need your help. And if you can't support us maybe with a donation yourself, what is extremely valuable is if you maybe ask others who you think might be interested and could contribute. And don't be scared to reach out, because we do have the evidence that this is real, and really sometimes there are a lot of hidden victims, professionals who don't dare to talk about their targeting and have to keep quiet for professional reasons, but they might be willing to actually support our work financially. So this is the appeal, and now I've spoken enough. I would like to pass the floor on to Melanie, who has some bombshell revelations for us today. So Melanie, tell us what you have found out.
Yes, thank you, Katherine. So, I mean, I think it's very important that, because we're talking here about non-consensual implantation by nanotechnology and biotechnology, attacks by directed energy weapons, secret research, military research programs. And for the average viewer, this might be quite difficult to wrap their minds around it. So I think it's very important to show some really physical evidence so that they really can see what we're talking about. Personally, just a few words to my person. I've lived and worked in Brussels for the last 20 years. And I worked for my last position. I was working for a project, satellite navigation for the European Space Agency. I've worked before as a temporary agent for the European Commission, and I've always worked in companies and consultancies that were either, I mean, working in very close cooperation with the European Union. So so that's what I did before. And then sometimes in the year 2008, after an operation, I suddenly realized that there was some odd foreign material that came out of my skin. So which first I could not explain. And since then, I've come a long way, and I've, as you said, done a lot of research. So this February, I was operated. You might be able to see the scar here in Brussels at the Leopold clinic, because there was a hard mass in my throat, and this was a cyst, and he agreed to remove it. He saw a black piece that was pretty big. Actually, it's 3.5 times 1.5 times 1.5 centimeters. So this is not a small piece. That was entirely black, and he didn't really know what this was. So he sent it to the laboratory to have it analyzed, from which I went to retrieve it this week, just to show the viewers. This is the laboratory report I received. So the laboratory is called CurePass. I don't know if you can see this, but it says basically that this black piece was removed from my throat, and it gives the measurements. This is a paper that they made me sign when I retrieved it. So see my signature on there. And this is what the piece actually looked like. And in fact, it's been cut in 2 pieces by the laboratory, probably to better examine it. So I hope the viewers can see this. It's quite striking, I think. So
wow, hang on, just hold it into the camera, because the camera just has to focus in, and it's a bit of reflection. So what people can see, that's perfect. So what people can see, and you've got your fingers can be seen, so it sets the scale. So you have 2 pieces, and one of them looks like the letter C, so it's very curved. and the other black object can just be seen through the perspex. But the first thing to notice is how big that piece of thing is. So imagine that huge black foreign object, inorganic object, was in Melanie's throat, and it was removed from there. That is an implant. So what we are showing live on television is, the first ever live demonstration or civilian, broadcast of what an implant actually looks like. This is an illegal implant that the military intelligence complex placed into Melanie's throat.
Correct.
Against the will, she was not in
two pieces, but this was actually one piece. So the laboratory obviously cut it in half to be able to better examine it, I think. But you can see the size. It's not small. And this was causing choking sensations. And it was really very painful. So,
well, actually, it's actually more than that, isn't it? Because it's not just the key with that implant, as you explained it to me, was not just that it caused choking sensations, but that it was also a remote-controlled strangulator, that they could actually trigger it and it would strangulate you on command, right?
That is correct. And actually, this was the second operation I had where I have it now removed. But I had one before. In fact, it can be remotely controlled and remotely activated to actually contract the windpipe and basically assassinate you by suffocation. And what it had actually done over the years, it had totally incurved my hyoid bone. And you cannot see this technology on the CT scans or MRIs. I mean, the usual detection methods that we currently have available in our hospitals. But what you could see is over the years, my hyoid bone, which was more and more incurved, and breathing was getting more and more difficult. So this you could see, and the doctors that saw me always thought that I was a victim of domestic violence, or that I'd been strangled somehow, and could not. When I said this was not the case, they could not explain this this modification of my hyoid bone. And at the end, it was so incurved that I mean, it was quite striking to see on the CT scans that I was sent quite as an emergency to the university clinic here to remove it. Well, not to remove it, but the doctor cut on both ends a piece of my hyoid bone to remove this incurvation and this strangulation sensation. But unfortunately, this was not that only solved partly the problem, because pieces of this technology was still in my throat. And with the second operation now, I have actually proof. I've actually, the actual piece that was removed from my throat. So, yeah, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about highly secretive government programs, perpetrated on the civilian population by military and intelligence agencies. I mean, what usually the victims of these crimes report also are illegal entries into their homes, ransacking of their property, sabotage of their cars, the household devices or electronic devices. So I've experienced this a lot. And I would just like, for example, to give another example, whilst we went to the laboratory, which is about an hour's drive from Brussels. I went together with a colleague, and we went with his car. And when I came back, my car was sabotaged again, which had to be repaired on various times. Just to show our viewers that these are all the builds that I had to. How do you say, all the repairs that had to be done. And this is also something which is typical. It is done to, provoke costs for the victims. Not only is this really psychological warfare, it's the the known fact that somebody comes into your house whenever they want, or into your car, and vandalizes your property, and you know, also steals whatever he or she would like to take. Obviously, they have been given carte blanche to victimize whoever they want in whatever way they want. So this is also something we experience repeatedly, is these being obliged to well, pay for these acts of sabotage.
Yeah, and I can certainly confirm that this really is the situation. So when you become a victim of the intelligence agencies, what you very quickly realize is that you're dealing with a group of incredibly ruthless psychopaths. They really behave like psychopathic serial killers. So they torture the victim, but they also daunt the victim. They want to give the victim the impression of nonstop stress. And they break into homes regularly. They sabotage things. If you say in your flat that you really like an item of clothing, then they break in and they will tear it apart, or they will put bleach marks on it. And both Melanie and I experienced that they came into our flats and they ripped up clothes, or they cut holes into that. Car sabotage is very common. Both of us have experienced that, and also our colleagues in the US. And the methods of the intelligence agencies are, in a nutshell, everything that can possibly be done to degrade, to mutilate, to destroy anything that's beautiful. So you're really dealing with huge expenses if you're trying to just protect your life. I mean, we're not going up against the intelligence agencies because we want to, put ourselves up on a collision course with them. It's because they have started attacking us, and they are now taking, they really demand a blanco check right to mutilate to death whoever they choose. And they have been using this right for absolutely decades and have been covering it up. And we have a huge pile of victim cases who were literally tortured to death, daunted and mutilated and mocked and humiliated, and then eventually slowly murdered by the intelligence agencies. So we've got cases from the UK, from Germany, also from the US, absolutely tons. And this sort of non-stop sabotage, for example, of cars, I can confirm there was even sabotage when I was there with you. But every single time you try to gather evidence, every trip to a lab that you do, they try to either, with us, when we went for the scanning, together to have our body scanned for microchips in a specialized Faraday cage, we experienced what I would almost call an assassination attempt on the motorway. It was extremely dangerous driving that was intended to cause an accident. There was an accident, almost accident caused on the way back. A colleague of ours who just took somebody to the airport later on that day also experienced almost a severe accident. So when you're dealing with the intelligence agencies, you're trying to do normal work to help the victims, and at the same time, you're being assaulted nonstop by these absolute degenerate psychopaths. So what Melanie is saying is that, you do have huge extra costs. You have your actual key cost of, the normal cost of court costs, paying for laboratory testing and all the equipment and all the journeys. And on top of that, you have huge expenses because they damage your, for example, both Melanie and I, they damaged our floor in our flats. They cut up clothing, so you have to replace them. The car repair bills are absolutely staggering. I also have car repair bills with me. They absolutely knocked out the entire dashboard at the front when I was going to the German embassy here in Bern, trying to recruit the help of Dr. Otto Lampe, the German ambassador, who refuses all help. But as I was traveling to Bern, I went there several times in a row trying to get through to the ambassador. They knocked out the electronics in the dashboard of my car. So I still have to repair that, and you have that. So it is, again, normal in inverted commas. It's absolutely not normal in normal life, but it is normal, sadly, when you're dealing with these degenerates. It's absolutely incredible. But, I was reading the chat just a moment ago, and the live chat, and what people were saying, I think one of the questions that kept cropping up was, could we see the scar on your throat? Could you come into the camera, because people are really...
I hope you can see this. So
yeah.
You see that as a red line? I don't
Yes,
know if you,
you can.
yeah, so well, that's the
So
scar,
basically,
yeah.
if you go along with your finger, people can actually see where the scar exactly is.
Okay, well,
You can't really,
it
you can
is
roughly,
here.
exactly just above that. So that is
Yeah.
that is the scar. And the truth is that this is not the only scar that Melanie has, because Melanie also, when I was working with her in Brussels, I think 2 or 3 weeks back. So I spent about 2 weeks in Brussels, and we were closely working together. And whilst I was there, Melanie was brutally attacked. She has, for example, we had a board meeting, or a meeting of a human rights organization, and she has implants in her, an entire network of implants in her body, but also implants in her thighs, and they can be remote heated. So I think one of the, well, the actual technology, how it works in detail, you only know when you actually take the bit out, right? But what I heard was, I think some investigators described it as light guides. So they channel electromagnetic energy and heat up as a result. But Melanie had huge burn marks because they were attacking her because she was working with her human rights charity, which is her legal right. But these degenerates in Belgian intelligence, run by Jacques Race, I should say, attacked her so brutally that she had huge scars. I think they were roughly this big on her inner thighs of actual
burn marks. You took
brutal
photos
burn.
of them.
Exactly.
And maybe we should just add what ICATOR, the charity I founded, does. And ICATOR stands for International Coalition Against Electronic Torture and Robotization of Living Beings, because we're talking about human robotization here, in fact, is that we provide people with evidence of the crimes committed against them. So we've just, we have a few contacts in the university here in Belgium, and we just 3 weeks ago, we tested a group in the University Faraday cage for radio frequency emissions. So we scanned their bodies for radio frequency emissions, and then also we are putting together a lawsuit, of course, to defend the victims' interests and their rights, and to eventually obtain compensation, and we want that they get back their health, recover their health completely. And also for these surgeries that we will have to perform on the victims, this time with the victims' consent, right? Because none of the people that the victims of this terrorism, what has been done to them, have ever given any kind of consent or authorization to be part of any kind of scientific experiment. So this has all been done illegally and non-consensually. We also will need money then to finance these surgeries, to pay for the experts that will, speak for us in our court case when the victims do not submit their declarations in their own language. We have translations costs. So all this is why we're doing this funding appeal today, to be able to help the victims and to defend their rights, and eventually go to court to expose all these crimes and to hold these criminals accountable for what they've done.
Absolutely. And for us, what's really extremely important is really the evidence. So we are working on methods of how to actually collect evidence. And one of the things that people who are victims of this can do themselves, it ties in with what we're just looking at, because you just showed the huge scar you had on your throat. But the truth is that that's not the only scar you have, because you also have scarring as through the heating of the implants, where the implants become visible through the huge burn marks that they leave, and you can feel them under the skin. And I think you have also implants all across your stomach. You showed them to me with many scars, where doctors have tried to remove the scars from your stomach area, and then said, really, it's just, you can't have, just 60 scars all across the body. And but what you also discovered when you first became implanted is that you would wake up with scars, with this really fine laser surgery scars. And I think you have
for
all
example,
around.
I have them behind my ears, yeah. And every time I woke up, well, not only I saw the scars, which first I couldn't explain myself. Now I obviously know that they're coming to, you know, the victims' houses and then anesthetize you, give you a drug that will block your memory, so you won't have any memory of this attack, and then they implant you. So I found these, you know, scars all over my body, and then what I noticed is that very quickly I actually noticed the movement under my skin, and and from these scars, my skin was extruding foreign material, so seeds, granules, hexagons, filaments, all very frightening stuff, I must say. And in the meantime, I had it analyzed by a professor of toxology in the university clinic here, and even he said that he couldn't totally identify the material under the microscope, something they had never seen. But what he could tell me is that it's certainly not naturally natural. It's synthetic material. It's in the polymers. So because what this technology will do actually when it comes into your body, it will self-assemble and auto-replicate to create a complex system of wiring all over the body. That's also the reason why you cannot just cut one implant out, because it's well, it's complex system of wiring. It actually covers your whole body. It's more like a cancer, if you if you want to see it like this. And to stimulate this technology to actually start this self-assembling and auto-replicating process, this is done with electromagnetic radiation. And that's what the victims of non-consensual implantation usually complain about, that at one point they were attacked by electromagnetic radiations, directed energy weapons. And when I say attacked, it's rather torture. They were tortured, they are tortured with these weapons. And this will stimulate this the self-assembling and auto-replicating process for this technology to develop in your body.
So what people have to realize is that when they're being attacked with electromagnetic weapons, the actual point is to put the synthetic material, make it grow in your body. So that's what she means by robotization. You will have literally these networks growing into your body. Of course, it's going to destroy your organs and you will die of the consequences at some point. You know, some people already have. But that's the entire point. So the intelligence agencies, these are the Nazi experiments that the intelligence agencies are doing. They're putting synthetic material into people's bodies and letting them self-assemble inside. So this is absolutely nightmarish and horrific. And if you ask yourself who is doing it, just find out who the head of domestic intelligence is in your country. So I was brutally attacked in the UK, for example, by the men of and women run by Andrew Parker. I was brutally attacked in Germany by the people run by Gerhard Schindler and now Dr. Bruno Kahl. And here in Switzerland, I'm being brutally attacked nonstop by the men and women run by Markus Seiler, and Melanie is being attacked by the people run by Jacques Race. So we know who is running these Nazis, who is conducting these Nazi experiments. The point is we can't make them stop. There have been many, many public appeals, and to this day, people are running around. We have entire, well, you might as well call them death squads. This is what Professor Eric Karlström talks about, that we have death squads and implantation squads roaming you know, all parts of the country and implanting not just adults, but also children, right? Because you have a second type of implant in you that we also found since then in my body, which is chips that are emitting at high frequencies. So imagine a broadcasting chip that's placed inside your body. Before we move on, I think
I would just like to interject, because you said, well, we can't make them stop. Well, actually, we can. Well, we do hope that we will be able to, but of course only with your help, because we need to be able to conduct all these investigations and go to court. We obviously need your help, your financial support, otherwise we cannot do it. And the second thing I wanted to interject is when you said children. Indeed, I've conducted various of these measurements now over the last few years. First, it was more single, you know, single people that turned up, mainly women, more women than men, definitely, because they seem to select single women. I mean, you know, preferentially. But more and more in the recent times, there were entire families that came, or often single-parent families. So often the mother with one or various children. And she told us, well, I'm a victim. I've been a victim since years, but please scan my son or my daughter as well, because I fear that he or she has been implanted too. And when we did, actually the children indeed came up positive. So this can only happen, I mean, we suppose it happens with the children vaccines, because what our viewers have to understand that it's very easy to implant somebody. All you need is a needle, basically, an injection, and it's done. So this is obviously done by the children's vaccines, or when they go to the dentist, then they can be implanted in the teeth. So we have more and more children, and the age of the children also decreases, so they're getting younger and younger. So we had toddlers of 3 years of age, for example, 4 years of age, being implanted. So that is indeed very shocking to me. So this is a subject that concerns everybody, because, I mean, people must understand that non-consensual experimentation was performed already since a long time. Implants are also documented, at least, I mean, for a long time, at least since the 50s. But you could still see them at that time on the X-rays, which now it's nanotechnology, smart dust nanotechnology, so you cannot see this anymore on the X-rays. But usually they chose orphans to experiment on, soldiers, single women, and handicapped people. This is still true, this is still done, but now our research shows that it's really the general population that is targeted with this technology. And we're talking about a highly educated group. Most people had university studies that came. Or even post-university studies and graduates. So it's a highly educated group we're talking about. And what I also saw, that most people that turn to us seem to have a high standard of ethics and morals, which our attackers obviously totally lack.
Yeah, I think, you know, actually, that one remark I would like to make is that vaccines are number one, where the chip just ends up, you know, either in the arm or, you know, if it's small, it just sloshes around. But you also, I think you mentioned to me that, well, one of the things that we discovered is that certainly with the adults, they are chipped in pretty much exactly the same places. So you will have a chip emitting at very high frequency on the top of your head, in the neck, yeah, in the arms as well, and in other locations as well. And there are many, many scans done in the US and also here in Europe. And you said you've been to many of these scans, and you say that the most striking thing is that these people are always implanted in the same places, right?
Yeah, you can almost superimpose, so to speak, the results of the people who tested, and they came up positive in exactly the same locations. Yes. So that tells us that it's not done randomly. This is very methodic, done by a certain method. And it seemed to be, what I saw is that it corresponds to the chakra points and the median points of the body. And of course, what you just mentioned, the crown of the head, the back of the head, the ears, the nose via the sinuses. These are typical, the frontal lobes. These are typical places where we find these chips. Yeah, that is correct.
And so if people want to look for chips in their own body, so one of the things that you discovered were very, very fine scars. So your dermatologist might see them. If you say specifically look for laser scars, that you have to use a magnifying glass, but you can discover them. And the other thing is that, well, you have done several of these scans, you organize several of these scans, but we're also trying to hone in on a advanced method of finding these chips. And we would like to later on offer scanning sessions so that people can actually have themselves and their children scanned, you know, professionally for these chips. But
yeah,
already,
so we certainly need further investigation, and this is where we would need your financial support to be able to continue to conduct these investigations because they're quite costly. But as you said, Katherine, the police refuses to perform any kind of investigation. The justice system refuses to investigate these crimes, although they have received hundreds and hundreds of complaints. And so we as citizens now, as ordinary citizens, need to take this investigation in our own hands. And we have built up quite a good network of scientists, of lawyers, of doctors that do want to help. But of course, it is pretty costly to organize this investigation, but it's absolutely necessary if we want to save humanity. Otherwise, humanity, or the form of human beings as we have known them until now, will be finished, will be over. All civil liberties will be totally removed and taken away if we let this kind of non-consensual implantation go on.
Yeah, and it has to be said that what the victims experience is, the one thing I wanted to say is that people can, in principle, already find these implants. So if you don't believe us and you're a victim, you can look for these things yourself, but you need to have a Faraday cage to block out all the signals around you. But you can use bug detectors that measure in the megahertz range to find the chips. So, you know, we found the chip on the top of my head and in my neck using a standard bug detector that cost 160 euros. We made a video about that, but we are going to put out much more information. So there is lots of evidence, and we are now collecting all of this. And I have to, as Melanie explained, everything that we do costs money. And the other thing that happens is that the victims go through a highly professional takedown operation by the intelligence agencies, whereby their entire career and their income opportunities are systematically destroyed. So the intelligence agencies ensure that you either get sacked, or if you want to start your own business like I did, they destroy your business. So with me, they have now destroyed 2 businesses that I started. And it is extremely, extremely difficult. And at the same time, both Melanie and I and our colleagues in the US, we are being mutilated, which means you receive very hard shots into your body with electromagnetic energy or very intense irradiation. And that happens not just hourly, it happens every few minutes. So, you know, the victims are put, and this entire thing, if you're wondering how this is done, they put down microwave emitters and microwave guns, and they just point them at the house from nearby properties, and then you set a computer to just fire into the home, and these microwave shots can pass through walls as well, because microwaves have the property that only really metal can block them or reflect them. But with concrete and normal building materials, they pass through at 50%. So if you double the energy, you can literally shoot at people inside their own homes. So the joint investigation team is conducting this investigation, and we're particularly reliant on your donations, because we are doing this work pro bono, and also because we're desperately fighting for our own life and that of our victims. But we're doing that under extremely difficult situations, whereby our income opportunities have been utterly destroyed in most cases. Yet at the same time, we have absolutely staggering financial expenses for specialist medical testing and specialist other testing, like electromagnetic frequency scans, travel expenses associated with that, and so on and so on. So what we're trying to do is really, you know, we got a team together of experts, and we have now established a network that comprises also microwave weapon experts. And we are trying to work with them professionally in a very focused manner to put together all the information and also the help mechanisms that victims need to be helped, and also work on court cases. So this is why we're asking you specifically to support us. The way you can support us, I should briefly say, I'm just going to share my screen, because below the video you will find the links to all the things that I'm showing you. You will find there the link to Melanie's ICATOR human rights organization. It also has a GoFundMe page. You also have bank details that I include below the video, and to check that the bank details haven't been maliciously altered by somebody who hacked my YouTube page. You can also compare it to the bank details that are listed on the ICATOR website. So you can cross-check that. But now I'm going to share.
Join us section, I would just like to add.
It's
on the icator.be, and you have join us, and there you can see the.
That's right. And also the link to the joint investigation team I've included below. But I would also like to share my screen briefly and actually show you how you can get there into our work. If you go, oh, sorry, this is our recording. If you go to my website called stop007.org, you will see all the work that I'm doing currently. So right now, by the way, the tsunami email campaign is currently suspended, but it will restart tomorrow. And it has been suspended because of the brutal attacks on me and also on a man in France as a result. But we're not going to stop. I was assaulted when Switzerland was emailed, and I have been assaulted brutally for the weeks after that, so I had to halt the campaign. But if you go to this website, so at the top you will have, some brief announcements, the tsunami email campaign. But here in the website proper, you have these different fields. You can find all about my case and how these crimes could have run out of control. There's a section FAQ here, and it will be populated with many, many more documents, including a very long and detailed list of patterns that's used to attack people. So that the patent list I haven't released yet because we keep adding to it. There's also a section explaining that most of the victims are women. And here in the Support Our Fighters section, you can see a link, and it takes you right to the joint investigation team. And at the top is linked to the weekly forum that we do, which you can watch live on YouTube. It's broadcast by our colleague, Dr. Paul Marco, from the YouTube channel Pinecone Utopia. And I upload usually the episodes here. The latest episode from last Thursday isn't here yet, but I will correct that. And below here, you will find all the members of the joint investigation team. This is Dr. Millicent Black, our expert in violence against women in this military biotechnology, our investigative journalist, Ramola D. Here's myself. And you will find Karen Melton-Stewart, the retired NSA whistleblower. She's an extremely high-profile whistleblower, even bigger than Snowden, because she talks about these the directed energy weapon system being used against the civilian population. And you also find melanie.vritschan.icator. And if you click on all these, you will find more details on the people and their backgrounds, and you will find a donate button for all of them. Some have PayPal donate buttons, some have GoFundMe pages. And I should say that we'll keep adding to these individual profiles. So with time, we'll populate it with more evidence. For example, on this site, you can see a lot of evidence, photo evidence of, I can just show you. We've uploaded, when I visited Melanie, she showed me how her floor was vandalized. And she has beautiful wooden paneling on her floor. And the intelligence agencies broke in, and all around the perimeter of the room, they took out triangular pieces, all the triangular pieces. They literally broke them out. And that's because of, the pyramid, the all-seeing eye, and all this nonsense. But they also put bleach on towels, as you can see here, and they smeared dark stuff on furniture. I also had exactly the same thing. There's also a police report how her car was vandalized on the 5th of March. Yeah, but since then it has been vandalized, I think, 2 or 3 times. So this is a recurring thing. And if you want to support our work, please use the donate buttons. And we have, first of all, Melanie's icator, that's in Belgium. Karen Melton-Stewart is on the East Coast of the US. Millicent is in Tennessee. I'm in Switzerland, but I'm also fighting for the victims in Germany and the UK because I've also been attacked there. And you will see more and more information. If you're interested in the Techno Crime Fighters Forum, that's we are public. All our work is public and is broadcast live every week on Thursday, so Central European time. It's Thursdays at 5 p.m. in the afternoon. You can watch it live on the Pinecone Utopia YouTube channel. UK time, that's 4 p.m. in the afternoon on Thursdays. It's a 2-hour show, very long, but that's because it has bombshell disclosure every single episode. And you can watch it afterwards on YouTube, also on my Stop 007 YouTube channel. And on Fridays, Melanie and I, we have another, hang on, I think that's linked. If you go further down, so there's all our work. And here at the bottom, the criminal investigation, which we're doing with the joint investigation team. Here I've linked the Techno Crime Fighters Forum in English, but also further down, the German version, which is the Techno Kriminalermittler. And these are all the episodes that I'm doing with Melanie on Friday evenings at 7 p.m. So I'm just going to stop sharing my screen. There we are. So what I'm trying to say with all this is that if you support us financially, you can watch every week what we're doing with your money, because we are reporting about what we did the past week, and we're announcing what we're going to do the next week, as we're slowly rolling towards court cases and supporting the victims internationally. So we're working together with our American colleagues, because we also strongly feel that this is a problem that has to be tackled simultaneously across the globe. So this is a US-European collaboration, but we would like other people to imitate us and have their own investigative teams, which they self-assemble in other countries. And so if you are supporting us, you can literally watch your money at work. Please help us. There's also many ways that you can support us. So if you maybe don't have the funds yourself because you're a victim and, just like us, you have been financially disadvantaged or obliterated, also use your network. Get onto Twitter, tweet about this, spread the word, and approach people specifically asking them to donate. It's very powerful when somebody approaches them, somebody they know personally, and say, I think this is a really good cause. I think this really helps us. It really helps us deal with this problem that is affecting us all at the end of the day.
Yeah, indeed, and this is true. And I would just like to add that we're really making a point of being transparent. So letting you know every time what we did with your donation. So in my case, like for ICATOR, it's really mainly to be able to conduct these investigations, this testing on the victims, to find out if they're part of a non-consensual scientific experiment they've never agreed to, and to be able to prepare this court case. And I would like to do it on a European level, because this is a European problem. It's even an international problem, as Katherine just said. So we'll report every time what we did with your money. So as Katherine said, many people have been depleted of their financial resources, and don't have very much money. But every little contribution helps. So this is why we have a GoFundMe page. So even if it's just a couple of euros, you can spend, every little help, financial contribution helps, even if it's not much. So
absolutely. And the last thing I would like to add also, you emphasize transparency, and transparency is extremely important for us, because this is a public interest investigation. And I just would like to point out, I'm just going to share my screen one more time. What I would like to point out, if you go to my website, stop007.org, and you go to the Support Our Fighters, which is the funding appeal, and you click on my profile down here, what you will also find at the bottom here is the accounts. So in this section called donations, you will see the accounts for February are already uploaded. What you'll find is a PDF document where I'm specifically saying what I received that month. So you will see one page, which is the total donations and PayPal fees. And then I think that month, that's when I started my funding appeal. Just I think halfway through, and then I collected 136 euros. And then in the month of March, so the accounts should be published. If I hadn't been that busy, they should be published at the end of the month. So for, my goodness, it's already March, April and May, the 3 months are missing here because I was involved in preparing court cases. And I was working flat out, but normally they should be there every month. And then what I used the donation since February 4 is to buy measuring equipment. So what I'm trying to say is that if you are donating, very shortly afterwards, I will catch up and I will publish these accounts. Very shortly, you can literally track your donation, and you can check what it has been used for. So the expenses that donations have been used for so far was to buy measuring equipment, high frequency measuring equipment, to measure the attacks in my home. I bought the measuring equipment, just to give you an example what we spend the money on, to measure the level of radiation in my home. And the very first time I got a professional, a man who was specializing in electrosmog and detecting high frequency radiation in homes and at industrial sites. And when he came to measure at my home, he was shocked how high the radiation was. And he recommended buying a specific device and making measurements with that. And I used donations to buy that. And subsequently, I took it to Belgium when I was working with Melanie, and I measured the radiation in her home. And it was absolutely breathtaking. So I really recommend that victims emulate that. So I will also, I've already published what sort of measuring devices I'm using, and I will update that. But this is the sort of expenses we have, and these measuring devices are several, €100 at a time. And you have to typically buy not just one, but several, because you have to measure different things. And these are the sort of expenses that we have. Okay, is there anything else that we wanted to mention in this episode?
I also would just like to add that Katherine at the moment, she might say a few words, is busy with supporting a victim that seems to have to be put in psychiatry. This is one of the problems we deal with, is these false psychiatric diagnoses or setups that victims are often subjected to. I personally, we can put the two links. I've been dealing with a similar case here in Belgium of an individual who's called Felipe Moldes. There are 2 videos available on this case, where we actually went with a friend in psychiatry to interview him. And he says on these interviews what actually happened to him. So this is something recurrent. That we find that victims are against their will sectioned and committed forcibly to psychiatric wards. So maybe, Katherine, you want to say some few last words on this Frederic Laroche case.
Oh yes, I will. I will say that's actually very important. Thank you so much for reminding me, because it's still work in progress. And just to briefly explain what happened, so Frederic Laroche is a victim. He has spoken at the Covert Harassment Conference, which you can find under covertharassmentconference.com I think in the year 2015. He was one of the speakers. You will find him if you go to program, and on the sidebar, you see a link to Frederic Laroche, and if you scroll down, you'll find his a video of his speech. And already in 2015, he said that for 19 years he has been harassed and attacked with electromagnetic weapons by French intelligence. And this has been going on, and he was trying to have this stop, but they'd refuse. Like with all victims, these degenerates just keep going. And then what happened is that as part of the tsunami email campaign, he participated. But he also, on top of that, he contacted, so France has not been contacted yet, but ahead of time, he already contacted all the members of the French Parliament, and he notified them of the fact that this tsunami email campaign is happening, and he notified them of his particular case. And that is his democratic right to do that, absolutely no problem. But about a week later, he was what looks like the victim of an entrapment operation by the intelligence agencies. So he was involved by what looks like a staged minor car accident. Afterwards, there were fraudulent claims of horrific injuries in a victim. The police came and arrested Frederic. The police officers were surprised that there was no sign of damage on his car. And Frederic says that's because there was no accident to start with. The entire claim is fake. when he was interrogated, the police officer showed him a piece of paper like that and said, this is the medical report from the victim. She has horrific injuries, and then put it aside. And Frederic wasn't allowed to read the report. But this entire thing seems to be entirely fraudulent. And what's most interesting is that Frederic was immediately transferred to a psychiatric ward. So after 24 hours at the police station, and he's been there since. Now this happened at the start of May, and now he's been there, I think, almost a month. So I think 2 days short of a month. And that is extraordinary. Frederic is perfectly healthy. We think the entire psychiatric so-called diagnosis is entirely fraudulent. And what's most shocking is that the doctors in the psychiatric clinic poisoned Frederic on the first day because they gave him a drug that utterly paralyzed his breathing. So for an entire day, he couldn't breathe properly. And since then, they have force medicated him, and they say the only way he can leave the psychiatric hospital is if he agrees to have monthly injections, pretty much until the end of his life, that last a month. So you get one injection, and the dose is so high, it kind of keeps you medicated for an entire month. And people who had that sort of injection say that you run around the first 3 days as if you were drunk, because the drug is so high and you're so intoxicated by it that you can't function normally. So this seems to be this seems to be such a Nazi way of operating. It's absolutely unbelievable. Since then, I've communicated with Frederic Laroche, and he specifically gave me a list of names, and he specifically said that he thinks that the person number one behind all this is the prosecutor of Grenoble, Mr. Jacques Dallest, or Dallet. So we are investigating this case, but meanwhile, Frederic had to launch a fundraising site, because also the psychiatric hospital is charging him for every day that he's staying there. So I'm just going to share the link to that is below the video, but I'm also going to share my screen and show you what this looks like. So this is the GoFundMe page. This is Frederic Laroche, and he is asking for help with his medical expenses, because very, very quickly, staying in such a psychiatric hospital, you accrue thousands of euros of medical expenses. He's also fighting his incarceration, so his private funds are being used to try to get lawyers, but his medical expenses he just cannot cover, and they're absolutely ruthless. So he is in the Grenoble area, and this case is absolutely, absolutely urgent. So we really ask people to help. And this is particularly worrying, because the entire accident where it all started was in a stop-and-go situation, as cars were queuing up for parking. And he says he never caused an accident. This is utterly ridiculous. But sadly, when you're dealing with the intelligence agencies, these sort of entrapment operations are extremely common, extremely, extremely common. I think all of us have experienced them at some point. And it's just one of their standard operating procedures. And the entire goal is to section people, to hospitalize them, or to harm them in an actual real accident. So that happens as well.
Yeah, or to intimidate them when they're actually about to reveal these crimes, as was my case. I was just about to organize a hearing in the European Parliament in front of the Libe Committee, which is the Committee for Civil Liberties, Justice and Home Affairs. And funnily enough, when I came home with a friend with my Christmas shopping, I was handcuffed in front of my home and driven by 3 police officers who never showed me a warrant. To a psychiatric ward where they were supposed to lock me up. But fortunately for me, and unfortunately for the perpetrators of this, I would say, illegal arrest, the psychiatrist did not play ball. He did not think that I was mentally ill, and I was released the same day. So indeed, these entrapment operations, as you say, Katherine, against the victims are extremely, extremely common. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, in Frederic's case, it's also staggering, because there doesn't seem to be a trace of an actual complaint to the police. The victims supposedly involved in the car accident were not traced by the police. So, unfortunately, criminal behavior by the police is also extremely, extremely common in this sort of situation. They seem to be corrupted by the intelligence agencies, and so are the psychiatrists. So, this case goes right at the heart, and any money that you donate is really an investment into restoring our institutions and returning to the rule of law. And there are only very few, you know, pivot cases where we have really, you know, like astounding evidence, like in the case of Melanie.vritschan, who really has this huge implant, or like the case of Frederic Laroche, where the police behavior is so outrageous and so ludicrous that, you know, it's clear as day what is actually happening. So please invest in us, please support us. We're going to report about our work. We'll continue reporting about our work weekly on Thursdays in English and on Fridays in German. And do you have any final words, Melanie?
No, I would just like to thank our viewers for their interest and for their support. And we will continue investigating and informing you, of course, and we hope that we can, with your support, bring these horrendous crimes against humanity to an end. Thank you.
That's the idea. So we're really working for all of you and all the victims who are listening. Please don't give up. You know, don't despair, because we're now putting all the bits and pieces together to really help you. So please hang in there. Oh, sorry, just final word. Tomorrow the tsunami email campaign is going to be released. And we're also going to release, tomorrow there will be a big announcement. We're also going to collect affidavits from victims to be able to show judges that these are very common crimes, and most of the offenses are virtually identical across continents and across victims. But more about that tomorrow. There will be a separate announcement. So you will be able to see that we are really working hard to help you. So for now, thank you for listening. Please donate. Please reach out to people who could donate. And until next time, which will be tomorrow for me, and otherwise Thursday for the Techno Crime Fighters Forum with Melanie and our colleagues. So thank you for listening, and bye for now.
Bye-bye.